The morning sun barely touched the palace windows when Margaret, the senior lady-in-waiting, noticed something terribly wrong. Queen Catherine had collapsed during her morning walk in the private gardens, her usually rosy complexion now ghostly pale. The guards rushed to her side as she lay motionless on the cobblestone path, her breathing shallow and labored. Within minutes, the palace transformed from a place of calm routine into organized chaos. Dr. William Hartford, the royal physician, arrived with his medical team, their faces grave as they examined the unconscious monarch. The Queen's pulse was weak, her temperature dangerously high. No one had seen this coming. Just the night before, she had hosted a state dinner, charming foreign dignitaries with her wit and grace. King Alexander stood frozen in the doorway of the garden, watching helplessly as medical staff worked to stabilize his wife of 30 years. His hands trembled as he clutched the doorframe, memories of their life together flashing before his eyes. The woman who had stood by his side through wars, political upheavals, and personal tragedies now lay fighting for her life. The palace press secretary, James Whitmore, faced an impossible decision. News of the Queen's condition would spread quickly among the staff, and rumors would soon reach the media. He knew the public deserved to know about their beloved Queen's health, but releasing information prematurely could cause panic. After consulting with the king, they decided to issue a brief statement acknowledging the Queen had taken ill and was receiving medical care. Princess Isabella rushed back from her charity engagement in the countryside, her driver pushing the limits of safety on the winding roads. Her younger brother, Prince Edward, cut short his military training exercise and boarded a helicopter. The royal family hadn't faced such a crisis since the king's father had suffered a heart attack 20 years ago. As news of the Queen's mysterious illness spread through the kingdom, people gathered outside the palace gates. Some brought flowers, others lit candles, and many simply stood in silent vigil. The nation held its breath, united in their concern for the woman who had dedicated her life to their welfare. Inside the palace, Dr. Hartford worked tirelessly to diagnose the Queen's condition. Blood tests revealed alarming abnormalities, but the exact cause remained elusive. Was it a rare tropical disease from a recent humanitarian trip to Africa? A delayed reaction to medication? Or something more sinister? The medical team explored every possibility while precious time slipped away. The king refused to leave his wife's bedside, holding her hand and whispering words of encouragement. He remembered their first dance at the royal ball 40 years ago, how she had laughed when he stepped on her feet. Now, watching her fight for every breath, he would give anything to hear that laugh again. Princess Isabella took charge of palace operations, coordinating with government officials and ensuring the monarchy's duties continued despite the crisis. Her strength surprised everyone, including herself. The young woman who had once been known for her carefree nature now displayed the leadership qualities of a future queen. Prime Minister Roberts arrived at the palace for an emergency meeting. The government needed to prepare for all possibilities. If the Queen's condition worsened, constitutional procedures would need to be followed. The conversation was difficult, but necessary. The stability of the nation depended on clear succession plans and continued governance. Meanwhile, Prince Edward used his military connections to fly in specialists from around the world. A renowned diagnostician from Switzerland, a tropical disease expert from Brazil, and a toxicologist from Japan all converged on the palace. Each brought unique expertise and hope for answers. The palace kitchen staff, many of whom had served the Queen for decades, prepared her favorite soup, hoping the familiar aroma might somehow reach her in her unconscious state. The head chef, Pierre, wept openly as he seasoned the broth, remembering how the Queen always complimented his cooking and asked about his family. As night fell on the first day of the crisis, the Queen remained stable but unresponsive. The king finally agreed to rest for a few hours, but only after Isabella promised to wake him if there was any change. The princess sat by her mother's bed, holding back tears as she studied the monitors displaying vital signs she didn't fully understand. The international medical team worked through the night, analyzing test results and consulting with colleagues worldwide through secure video conferences. Dr. Hartford noticed an unusual pattern in the Queen's blood work that reminded him of a case study from his medical school days. Could it be a rare autoimmune condition triggered by stress? Outside the palace, the crowd had grown larger. People of all ages and backgrounds stood together, some praying, others singing hymns softly. Food vendors gave away free meals to those maintaining the vigil, and local businesses donated blankets and umbrellas as the weather turned cold and rainy. The media struggled to balance public interest with respect for the royal family's privacy. Responsible journalists stuck to official updates, while tabloids speculated wildly about everything from poison plots to ancient curses. Social media buzzed with conspiracy theories and messages of support in equal measure. On the second morning, a breakthrough came from an unexpected source. The Brazilian specialist, Dr. Santos, recognized symptoms consistent with a rare reaction to a combination of common medications. The Queen had recently started taking a new arthritis medication while continuing her longtime heart medication. Individually harmless, together they had created a perfect storm in her system. The medical team immediately began treatment to counteract the drug interaction. It would take time to know if they were correct, but, for the first time since the crisis began, there was genuine hope. The king graced them with his first smile in 48 hours. Princess Isabella addressed the nation that evening, her voice steady despite her exhaustion. She thanked the public for their support and prayers, assured them the best medical minds were caring for the Queen, and asked for continued patience as treatment progressed. Her poise and compassion impressed even the monarchy's critics. Inside the Queen's chamber, subtle changes began to appear. Her color improved slightly, and her breathing seemed less labored. Dr. Hartford, cautiously optimistic, warned the family that recovery, if it came, would be slow and possibly incomplete. Brain function during the prolonged unconsciousness remained a concern. Prince Edward organized security for the growing crowd outside the palace, ensuring emergency vehicles could still access the grounds while allowing people to maintain their vigil. He worked with local police and community leaders to keep the gathering peaceful and organized. His military training proved invaluable in managing the logistics. The Prime Minister held daily briefings with the king, keeping him informed of government business while assuring him that the nation's affairs were in capable hands. This crisis had revealed the strength of the constitutional monarchy, with elected officials and royals working seamlessly together. On the third day, as dawn broke over the palace, the Queen's eyes fluttered open. The first thing she saw was her husband's face, etched with worry but brightening with joy. She tried to speak but found her throat too dry. The king quickly offered her water, his hands shaking with relief. Word of the Queen's awakening spread through the palace like wildfire. Staff members hugged each other in hallways, and even the usually stoic guards allowed themselves brief smiles. Dr. Hartford conducted neurological tests, relieved to find the Queen's cognitive functions intact, though she remained weak and confused about the lost days. The Queen's first concern was for her people. Despite barely being able to sit up, she insisted on being told about the crowds keeping vigil. Tears rolled down her cheeks when Isabella showed her photos of the thousands gathered outside, holding candles through the cold nights. Recovery would not be instant. The Queen faced weeks of rehabilitation to regain her strength. The drug interaction had damaged her liver and kidneys, though not permanently. She would need to carefully manage her medications for the rest of her life and undergo regular monitoring. King Alexander rarely left his wife's side during her recovery. They spent hours talking, rediscovering the deep connection that royal duties often forced them to set aside. The crisis had reminded them both of what truly mattered. The king cancelled several international trips, declaring his place was with his family. Princess Isabella continued to impress with her handling of royal duties. She visited hospitals to thank the medical staff who had consulted on her mother's case, attended state functions in the Queen's place, and maintained regular communication with the public about the recovery progress. Prince Edward returned to his military service but instituted new protocols for medical emergencies within the royal household. The crisis had exposed vulnerabilities in the palace's emergency response systems. He worked with healthcare professionals to ensure such delays in diagnosis would never happen again. The Queen's first public appearance came 6 weeks after the crisis. Supported by the king, she stepped onto the palace balcony to wave at the crowd below. The roar of approval could be heard miles away. Though thinner and moving slowly, her smile remained as radiant as ever. In her first speech after recovery, the Queen thanked the medical teams, her family, and, most of all, the people who had prayed and stood vigil. She spoke candidly about her health scare, hoping to raise awareness about medication interactions. Her vulnerability and honesty only increased the public's affection for her. The crisis had changed the royal family. They had always been dedicated to duty, but now they understood the fragility of life in a new way. The Queen reduced her schedule, focusing on causes closest to her heart. The King became an advocate for healthcare reform, using his influence to improve medical services across the nation. Princess Isabella emerged as the clear successor, having proven her capability under pressure. The public, who had watched her transform from party princess to dedicated leader during the crisis, embraced her new role. Prince Edward's military career flourished, but he remained close to home, ready to support his family when needed. The palace implemented new health protocols, including regular medical checkups for all royal family members and better communication between their various doctors. What had nearly been a tragedy became a catalyst for positive change, both within the palace walls and throughout the kingdom. The international medical team's collaboration during the crisis led to new partnerships in medical research. Dr. Hartford published a paper on the drug interaction that had nearly killed the Queen, potentially saving countless lives. The Brazilian and Japanese specialists established an exchange program, sharing knowledge that benefited patients worldwide. The Queen's illness also humanized the monarchy in unprecedented ways. People had seen the royal family's fear, their tears, and their relief. The shared experience of nearly losing someone beloved created a bond between the royals and their subjects that no amount of pomp and ceremony could have achieved. Years later, the Queen would refer to her health crisis as a blessing in disguise. It had brought her family closer, reminded her of her people's love, and refocused the monarchy on its essential purpose of serving others. The palace, once shaken by shock and fear, had emerged stronger and more connected to the nation it served. The annual anniversary of the Queen's recovery became an unofficial day of thanksgiving throughout the kingdom. People gathered not to mourn what might have been lost, but to celebrate the strength found in unity during crisis. The Queen always spent the day visiting hospitals, meeting with patients facing their own health battles, offering hope drawn from her own experience. The story of those frightening days when a health crisis gripped the palace became part of royal legend, told and retold with various embellishments. But, at its heart remained a simple truth that a family's love, a nation's prayers, and the dedication of medical professionals had combined to save a beloved queen and, in doing so, had transformed a monarchy for the better.